Yes, you should be accountable for not implementing the appropriate plans and strategies to help you make your goals come to fruition. However, that doesn't mean you have to take on failure as an identity. Hey guys, welcome back to the Everyday Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Mattie James, and today we're talking about goals. Maybe you're looking back at 2024 and you realize that you missed some of your goals this year and that you plan on doubling down in 2025 to make sure what you said you were going to do this year, you're going to do next year. And you plan on pushing through because you're a woman of your word. And what if I told you that your issue isn't perseverance, but it's prioritization? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. Last year, actually earlier this year, I really had an issue with clarity. My issue was that I know I got on Chris's nerves every single time we were talking about work and he was asking me how I was feeling. I would always talk about clarity. That's all I would pray about. That's all I would journal about. I'm like, Lord, give me clarity, give me clarity, give me clarity. And it was really tough for me. And it was really hard for me at the end of last year and at the top of this year because when it came to really big goals like the And More community and the Everyday Magic Planner, those were two really huge goals of mine that I could not bring to fruition for years. These are dreams and goals of mine that I have had for years. And it wasn't until I made those two goals priorities that they came to fruition. And so what I submit to you is that until you make your goals priorities, you will never, ever accomplish them. So this is not the episode where we're going to talk about a vision board. We're not going to talk about SMART goals, right? Not that those two things aren't important. However, we are going to talk about prioritizing your goals because my question for you is, why do you keep on making goals and yet not reaching them? So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to make your goals priorities. And we're also going to discuss how to finish the year strong if you've missed your goals. Now, you know I love me a recap. So if you are somebody who's into show notes and you want a recap of this episode, be sure to head on over to mattiejames.com/014. That's mattiejames.com/014. All right. So I already said we're not going to be talking about vision boards and all of that, right? Vision is important, but it doesn't really matter if you can see something if you're not willing to set it apart to make sure that it gets done. And that's what this episode is about today. There is a very good chance that if you're listening to this episode, you feel really discouraged. You are just really bummed out that you didn't reach certain goals that you promised yourself that you were going to do this year. And you keep on thinking about it and how you just missed the mark, right? You are probably really overwhelmed and you're looking at what everybody else is doing, right? You're looking at everybody's recaps and all of their highlight reels of 2024 and comparing it to your reality, to your behind the scenes, and just in a little bit of a lack mindset and telling yourself that you're not blank enough. And you're probably a little scatterbrained. You're looking at what everybody else is doing, right? Just like we just noted, and you're probably lacking focus. You're probably really easily distracted. And that is causing you to be unclear on what the right next steps are, or even if you should move forward on these goals at all. And my friend, you don't have to feel that way. Now, I'm all about self-accountability. Yes, you should be accountable for not implementing the appropriate plans and strategies to help you make your goals come to fruition. However, that doesn't mean you have to take on failure as an identity. So, my friend, it is not too late for you. You are not a failure, even if you missed the mark, and it is not too late for you to bring your goals to fruition. Now, it might not happen by December 31st, but I submit to you that if it comes to fruition, even in the middle of 2025 or even 2026, that it'll still matter to you because you simply did what you said you were going to do. So there is a mindset shift that is required for you to no longer miss your goals. And that shift is that you need to change your mind. And instead of making goals, you need to make priorities. That's the God to honest truth. And there are 3 ways that you can do this. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to do is you need to prioritize proactively. This is massive. You need to prioritize and you need to be proactive about it. One of the things that I say in the book is that everything that is a priority is important, but not everything that is important is a priority. And the only person who can decide what is a priority in your life is you. That's both the blessing and the burden of being a grown-up. And I'll tell you what, the reason why you probably don't want to make the decision of what's a priority in your life is because you know that if you make that decision, you will have to be responsible for the results of making that a priority or the lack thereof. That's why it's easy to blame things on the kids, or it's easy to blame things on work, or say that like your spouse needed to do something or said that this was important, because then you can point blame to everybody but you. But regardless of whether or not you're decisive or indecisive, when it comes to what happens in your life, it's on you, friend. And so you do need to be really decisive when it comes to making a priority. And so what is really great about a priority is that it forces you to set boundaries. Because when you say this, and this is a priority, it makes everything else secondary or even further. And so until you have established set boundaries, which is what prioritizing lets you do, you will keep getting caught up in the rat race and keep on trying to be everything to everyone. And you all know that that's a setup. So you've got to prioritize by making decisions. So I submit to you, draw a line in the sand today. What are the most important things to you in your personal life, in your professional life? It is time for you to make those decisions. And when you make those decisions, hold on to it. Be proud of that. Oftentimes, the fear that is circling in your head is like, is this the right thing to make a priority? Am I making the right decision? And I submit to you, again, that there's probably not really a wrong answer. As long as it's not illegal and harming yourself or harming somebody else, there's really no wrong answer to what should be your priority. But I will tell you this. If it is something that has been lingering in your heart for weeks, for months, for years that you've been wanting to do, I submit to you that it should be a priority because that's probably absolutely your assignment. Something that's been in your heart living rent-free is very likely something that you're supposed to be doing. But until you act on it, it'll still just linger and kind of haunt you, and you'll kind of always have a little bit of resentment to other people on a decision that you did not make. And so it's really important to make sure that you prioritize what matters to you most, because this will allow you to start living a life that you've always wanted to live. It allows you to not only live well, but it'll also allow you to work well, which essentially will help you thrive in your life. One of the best ways you can prioritize proactively is by creating an environment that allows you to do your priorities easily. Make it easy to do what matters. Too many times, you're not setting yourself up for success. Having an environment that sets you up for success will allow you to not only prioritize proactively, but consistently. For instance, one thing that's really important to me, it's a priority of mine, is writing things down. Because when I write things down, I'm more likely to get it done. And it also puts me in a position to hold myself accountable and to maintain self-integrity. So for me, that's writing in my everyday magic planner every single day. I like to write down not only what I have to do, but when I have to do it. So I put my everyday magic planner on my kitchen island with a pen every single evening. So when I come downstairs, I don't have to look for my planner or even look for something to write with. It's already there. I'm usually the first person downstairs during the work week because I'm usually tackling breakfast while Chris is getting the kids dressed and ready for school. And so that allows me, like in between throwing some English muffins in the toaster, I can write down exactly what I need to do for the day. It allows me to close the tabs in my head. And when I write things down, I say them out loud, which increases my likelihood to get it done. This is why I prioritize it. However, I'm able to actually get my priority done because I've created an environment that makes it easy for me to do so. So I want you to do the same thing so you increase the likelihood of getting your priorities done also. So your magic action step is to create environment to make doing your priorities easy. For instance, if you want to prioritize working out consistently this week, today, make sure you take out your workout clothes, fill up your water bottle. If you're working out at home, pull out the dumbbells, or if you're heading out to the gym, make sure you put your keys and your shoes at the door so you don't have to look for things tomorrow morning when you work out. That's your magic action step to take today. After you've prioritized, it's time to plan practically. The thing that's probably getting you stuck and getting you in a vicious cycle is that you're overcomplicating the process. Ask me how I know. You don't have to jam pack your day for it to matter. You are probably putting a bunch of things on your to-do list for the day to make yourself feel more productive or to seem more important or to seem busy. And you're probably putting on a bunch of things that you know that you can accomplish that won't really challenge you, that are not priorities, but you can claim are important, right? While putting your priorities on the back burner. And you need to stop fooling yourself, because even if everybody else around you is fooled, at the end of the day, the thing that's in your heart is not getting done. And at the end of the year, it's going to chase you again. So it's time to start getting real with yourself. Stop looking for the super busy thing and start focusing on the things that matter most. Oftentimes, you're putting a bunch of things on your to-do list so you can get credit instead of being obedient. Many times the tasks that are in your heart, or the thing that is in your heart, the work that you want to do, maybe it's writing a book, maybe it's building out an in-person store, whatever the thing in your heart is typically in alignment with the assignment that God has for you. And that is way more important than any of the busy work that you could come up with to compare yourself to some stranger on social media. And so what I submit to you is that anytime you're doing things for credit, you're compromising your assignment versus being obedient and getting your ducks in order. This is about obedience. This is about doing what matters most instead of having the most tasks on your list. Keep things practical. Keep things simple. In the book, I talk about, like, when it comes to making your tasks magic, it's not about having a bunch of tasks. You should not have any more than 3 to 5 tasks on your to-do list. Now, this doesn't include routine tasks or micro tasks, which are tasks that you can get done in 5 minutes or less. And routine tasks are things that you do every day. Like, you don't need to brush your teeth or take a shower on your list. Those are things that you do on an everyday basis. But when it comes to tasks that are in alignment with your priorities and require you to be present and to be locked in and to do deep work, those are the tasks that need to be written down. But only those types of tasks should be done if it is a priority in your life. If it's not a priority, stop making room for it, right? And here's what I'll also say. The other thing is that oftentimes you will avoid a priority, maybe because it requires deep work and you only have 30 minutes or you only have 60 minutes to work on that. And stop looking at it as only having 30 or 60 minutes. Start looking at it as, I get to have 30 minutes. I get to have an hour to work on this, and use it wisely, right? When you steward 60 minutes or 2 hours wisely, then yeah, you later on getting a whole week to work on a thing, you'll be able to manage that wisely because you knew how to manage a little bit wisely. This is what we talked about in the last episode 13, using your time wisely in 5 simple steps. It's really about figuring out what you can automate, delegate, operate in your zone of genius, or eliminate completely. Now, if you want to listen to that entire episode, I really encourage it. So listen to episode 13, which is at mattiejames.com/013. That's mattiejames.com/013 to listen to the episode. But this is about you using your time wisely. It's not about you doing all the things. It's only about you doing the things that matter most. Remember, do not be everything to everyone. That is not required, and you will still be more enough because you'll be focused on your priorities, which is the best thing to do. The reason why you probably don't get the things that matter most on your things to-do list, you're probably avoiding them, but you're probably not even thinking about what they actually are. And I always talk about thinking time and how valuable that has been to me, not only as a mom and a wife, but certainly as a creator and an entrepreneur. That has been such a game changer. If you can go out of your way to block out 15 minutes of uninterrupted time away from your phone. You're not listening to music or anything in the back. You're just in silence, thinking for 15 minutes with pen and paper, and write down the tasks that matter most. Even if something is a priority, be honest with yourself. Is it something you can delegate out? I talk about this all the time when I talk about laundry service. Laundry does need to get done every week. It just doesn't need to get done by me. And that's where laundry service comes in. So think about what it is you need to plan and actually get done to make sure that your priorities get done. So write down everything that you need to do for the day. Write that down today, whatever it is you need to get done tomorrow. And your magic action step is scheduling thinking time on a daily basis. Thinking time can be any time from 15 minutes to 2 hours. But I'll tell you what, 15 minutes is really valuable. And remember to approach it with the mindset of, I get 15 minutes to think uninterrupted and think clearly. It will absolutely change the way you plan. You'll do it not only in a practical way, but it'll definitely allow you to be more proactive when it comes to prioritizing your goals. Last but not least, after you proactively prioritize and after you plan practically, it's time to pace your progress. I want you to understand that going fast is relative. I think what happens is so many times you expect something to go viral or you expect something to happen immediately and you haven't even done it consistently. What I want you to promise yourself is that you're willing to show up intentionally and consistently on a regular basis. This isn't about you doing something for 3 weeks. It's not even about you doing something for 3 months. Can you be intentional and consistent for 3 years on something to actually be able to measure the progress of actually getting somewhere? My friend, if you focused on your priorities for the next 3 to 5 years and not get distracted and not become unfocused, it's impossible for you to lose. And it might even take you a little bit longer. But this is really more so the reason why priorities are focused is because anytime you prioritize something, it's going to bring you closer to your assignment. And the person who gives you the assignment is God. And God is on an eternity timeline, right? Not an earthly timeline. He's on an eternity mindset, not an earthly mindset. So I submit to you that you need to remember that 3 to 5 years is a blip in eternity. And so that's why in Romans 12:2, he says, don't conform to the pattern of the world. The world will make you think like, oh my gosh, you took 3 years to do this. And trust me, the person who took 3, 5, 7 years to build themselves the business that they've always wanted, where now they make money in their sleep, they have more time for their family, they can take care of their parents, they can afford whatever it is that they want and desire. It was time well spent. And so I want you to start pacing your progress, right? Don't rush the process, respect it and honor it enough to start pacing your progress. The other thing you want to do is week to week, you want to start looking at your progress because small progress is still progress. And when you operate from a grateful heart, remember what I always say, gratefulness is the currency of favor. So if you want more favor in your life, you've got to be more grateful. But look at what worked and then repeat it. Repeat what works, even if it worked a little bit, tweak it to see if you can make it work a little bit more and a little bit more. And the reason why you want to track this, whether you make a spreadsheet in Google Sheets or you want to use some type of app to measure your progress, this is going to allow you to create momentum because you create momentum when you start multiplying what works, but you cannot multiply what you don't measure. And this is why you have to start measuring your progress, whether it's a personal progress report on like how much muscle you're gaining, how much weight you've lost, how much protein you've been eating and all of that. That definitely will contribute to your health and wellness journey, or even when it comes to your business growth, right? Are you measuring the right analytics and metrics? Those are things to measure as well. But it's really important to pace yourself. Like, yes, there might be a story of somebody who went viral or who had really fast success. That might not necessarily be your story, but if you can have incremental success, that is still progress and that still needs to be honored and seen as something to honor. So be grateful, be intentional about that gratefulness and be intentional about how you're measuring your progress and be super intentional about being consistent. Pace yourself. It's one step at a time. I love the quote. I know it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So allow yourself to take one bite at a time. So your magic action step is to write down every single week, write down one thing you're grateful for in your process of prioritizing your goals this week, right? Were you really surprised about what your mindset was? Were you really excited because something went surprisingly well after being consistent at it for 3 months, right? A little bit goes a long way. But what will happen is on a really discouraging day, you'll look back at those gratefulness notes that you made and start to realize like, wow, you actually are growing. And even though it's not a super huge viral success or growth that happened, it is growth that absolutely has made a difference, not only in your business, but your life and your relationships. So to finish the year strong, you've got to do 3 things. You've got to prioritize proactively, you've got to plan practically, and you've got to pace your progress. Those 3 things matter. Not only will doing these things allow you to turn your goals into priorities, but it'll allow you to finish your year and enter 2025 both confident and clear. Now, if this episode helped you, do me a huge favor, share this with a friend that could use the encouragement. I know around this time of year, I can always use an extra good word, and be sure to tag me at the Mattie James and let me know if this episode helped you so I can encourage you as you are prioritizing what matters most. Before I let you go, be sure to head on over to mattiejames.com/014. That's mattiejames.com/014 for the episode show notes and recap. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Everyday Magic podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And remember, you can subscribe on YouTube too. And if you'll do me a super quick favor, if you haven't already, rate and review this podcast. It is so helpful because every time you rate and review, it allows new people to discover the podcast so I can reach more listeners like you. And if you have been looking for a community that is life first and handles business, then I want to encourage you to join And More, my private community. We have such a good time there. I go live Monday through Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern every single day. And we have monthly virtual events like, what do we have? We have Bible study, we have charcuterie club, we have monthly meal planning, and we have co-working. It would be such a treat to have you join us. You can join And More over at mattiejames.com/community. Well, that is everything for now. Remember that every day matters. You might as well make it magic. Love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll see you next time here on the Everyday Magic Podcast.